daily grind. Hearing voices in my head, man, they not that kind. Cause bitches be bitches, snitches keep snitching. The world keeps turning, and I keep hitching a ride. Instead of living my life. Yo, 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 yo.
Man, when you feel hungry, don't you have to eat?
Yo, yo, pump up the volume and digest this beat.
Rapscallions in the house with this lyrical treat.
When we're done with you, you're gonna ice your feet.
If the world ends tomorrow and you had one chance,
Hey yo, would you start the move like it's your last dance?
yo, do something small in the past and present changes.
Do something now, the future rearranges.
Cause bitches keep bitching.
Yo, snitches keep snitching.
The world keeps turning.
And you start living your life instead of hitching a ride. Rapscallions.
Welcome everyone to episode 19 of Rapping with Rapscallions. Very special episode today. We are talking about Fiestas Patrias in Panama. We're both dressed in our guayaberas. I've got my chacara. Joe's got his hat on, his sombrero pintado, auténtico. And we're both drinking seco in the spirit of Panama. And we got a lot to talk about today. So why don't we start off with our weekly Rapping with Rapscallions weekly wrap up. Joe, you go first. I'm going to share some of this with the people out there in Facebook land. Tell us what happened during your week.
No doubt, man. No doubt. First and foremost, happy to be here, man. It's been an interesting week. So yeah, we're in November, and I finally managed. Well, thankfully, we had 3 days off this week. 3 days of national holidays. So I was able to take Monday off, and I was able to take Friday off. And that meant that I had my first full week off since the year began. So hallelujah. Thank the good Lord. I managed to take a week off from work. Yes, that hadn't happened. It had not happened at all since 2019.
Wow. Well, thank you, Panama. You know, a lot of people, we really enjoy all these Independence Days. So I'm glad to hear. That you got to take some days off. What else? What else has your week been about?
I got a break. So then I managed to take that week off. So it was good. And then, of course, DFC. We've been working on that project, Deep Fried Comedy with TVN. So since I wasn't working on work, I was working on that other creative work. So we were rehearsing, and then yesterday we filmed what will hopefully go on to TVN's app, TVN Pass, on the 27th of November. It will launch. So people will be able to see some sketch comedy on their phone. And that's about all I have right now. We filmed it yesterday, and now it's editing. Now we're going to be editing it, and hopefully it'll go live on the 27th of November. But I will keep you guys posted.
Beautiful. I love that's good news. I'm a big fan.
Sure.
Did a lot of deep fried comedy myself.
No
as
doubt.
A special invited guest. I want to know, so you keep us updated because I want to know. Know.
Believe me, you'll be the first to know, Fernando Felix. You will be the first to know.
It will be beautiful. One of the sketches I did in DFC over at the Theater Guild.
You're part of DFC, man. You're part of the history of DFC. You're part of the framework, the structure of it, dude.
Right, I'm part
For
of
sure.
the part.
So it was good. It was good to get that done, but also a lot of work, And then usually how it is whenever you're done with a play. This morning I've just been doing a lot of laundry.
Wow.
Cleaning all the outfits I wore in the thing, because of course you got to wear your own clothes. That's right. So it was good. It was a tiring week, but it was a different type of tiring. And then seeing all this, fulfilling. It was very fulfilling. See a job well done. And then just seeing all the stuff happening in Chiriquí and all those places with the rains and the floods and everything. So just kind of keeping an eye on people over there, making sure everybody's okay. That I know a lot of people that went over there. And it's really funny though. Well, it's not funny. It's just very interesting because I still see a lot of people posting stuff on social media and they seem to be having a great time. Yeah. In other parts, you see images of just disasters.
Yeah.
So it's just very concerning, but I think the rains have stopped. So hopefully people are doing better.
I wanted to jump right into that. My week has been pretty uneventful other than usual work occupations and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I wanted, if anyone out there wants to donate to the people in Chiriquí, You can do that through the Rotary Club of Panama. You can do that through movinpanama.org. Let me see if I can pull up anyone else. There's plenty of places to do that there. Even the U.S. government was helping with the big helicopters. They were lifting in supplies and whatnot, and trying to rescue people that had been isolated because of the mudslides and the floods. So for those of you who don't know what's going on in Panama, there was a hurricane, there was a tropical storm, and then a hurricane that went over.
ETA, it was called, or ETA, ETA.
ETA, expected time of arrival. So ETA went to Nicaragua, and we got on the northernmost part of Panama. We got extensive rains. There was lots of landslides, lots of flooding. And parts of Boquete, bridges were taken out, houses were taken out. Volcan, a lot of you Zonians out there really love Volcan and Bambito area. That was very heavily affected. And also on the road to Bocas del Toro, the road got completely washed out. Completely washed out. They're going to have to put a bridge there, as well as in Veraguas. Whole families were just swept away from flash floods. So if you find it in your heart to donate, just do a quick search. We donated to the Rotary and to the Panama Rotary and also to Movin Panama. We don't have much, but we just, every little grain of rice helps out.
Definitely. And for those people, HB, that would prefer to just hand over things, Parque Omar is also one of the places right here near Parque Lefebvre. Is one of those places where you can go and drop off supplies. They need blankets, food, whatever you got, you can take it to Parque Omar.
What type of things are they looking for? Canned food, I think.
Canned foods. I heard blankets is one of the things that I've heard as well that they need. I guess clothing, because a lot of people lost everything. In some of these images, you just have people walking down the street with what they were wearing. So clothing, canned foods, blankets, towels. I mean, just basically things that can help people get comfortable, get back on their feet, have some dry clothing to wear, those types of things. But I think at the end of the day, any donation is welcome.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. And if anyone out there has more information they'd like to share with us, we'll be more than happy to pass that along. Do you know if we're live? Are we doing good on Instagram? Do you have an eye on that?
Hold on. I was just checking Facebook now and Instagram. I will tell you in 2 seconds, my friend.
I'm not seeing it, but that's okay.
Yeah, we're live on Instagram.
There we are. I just had to say it. I just had to say it so that it would populate.
We are good to go on Instagram.
So our hearts go out to the people in Chiriquí and to Veraguas. Veraguas always somehow gets hit very hard when there's lots of rain. Their rivers grow very tall, very high, and so just check it out, and if you can donate. Otherwise, our hearts go out to them.
For sure, man.
What else do we need to touch on there, Joe?
100%. I think that's it. I think that's it on the weekly thing. Have you had anything else going on this week, my friend? Well, we're going to talk about one of your projects that was done several weeks ago, actually, later on today, which I'm looking forward to discussing with you because it's super cool. But no, man, I don't know. I mean, it's been a week, man. And as we all know, COVID is still in the country. It's still active, and people need to stay careful with that.
Yesterday, I think we had 14 new cases or something like that. Did you send me that infographic?
I think it was today's Sunday, Friday we were back up to the thousands.
Oh my goodness.
In the cases, but they did 7,000 tests. So, but still, it takes the percentages up because if we're still going the way it was going, it shouldn't have been around. And we do 7,000 tests, we should have about 700 new cases. Sure. But they did 7,000. And we had 1,190 or something. But then yesterday, we did, I think 6,000 or 4,000. We were at 700 cases or something. So it dropped drastically again. So I don't really know what's going on. I'm not a math person, so. Yeah.
And just to help out with the recap too, we had some audience commentary about our show last week, which was with retired Lieutenant Commander Luke Metro Robinson.
For sure.
And we had asked during the show if in the Air Force they use some of the same terminology. And it so happens another friend of mine, Mike Charles, wrote in. He's like, yes, we use the same word deck in Air Force. And he said that the F-14 isn't the most beautiful plane to fly.
No.
No, it's the B-2 bomber because that's what he flies. So 2 people I know go supersonic. That's pretty incredible. And 2 people wrote in. He's an aviator, and he said, he thanked Luke for having the courage to talk out about mental health as
Sure.
an aviator.
Yeah.
And then Jason Dominich also wrote in thanking him for talking out about mental health. It's very important that it becomes more commonplace and it's not as taboo, so that people can seek help, especially during these COVID times.
Most definitely, man. Well said. I think, mental health should be treated just as your own regular health. And when something is wrong with your health, or if your arm hurts, or if your leg hurts, or if your eye hurts, you go check it out. And,
Yeah.
if your mind hurts, check it out.
Fix it.
Yeah, man. There's nothing
Get
wrong
it
with
seen
it.
to, man.
True that.
So on
True
to the
that.
topic at hand, my dear friend Giuseppe Mesquijote. We're talking about November festivities and the historical stories behind them. I'm a Zonian, you're a Panamanian, so we have some nice points of view to compare and contrast how we grew up with them, how we learned them, and we also acted together in the stage play 1903 El Musical, which is about these days in particular. So
that's right.
It should be a very fun show, and hopefully we get a lot of audience participation, chiming in and asking questions.
That's
Ralph
right.
Furlong says, "Sup, boys? What's up, Ralph? How you doing, buddy? If you got any questions about Panama Independence and Fiestas Patrias, please don't keep them in your chakra.
Do not.
Print
Or
them,
even
send them.
more than questions, just thoughts. Or maybe you're like, hey, guys, you got this wrong. Let us know. Because we're only human.
We're only human. We like the audience participation. We like the DMs.
That's right. For sure. For sure.
Well, let's kick it off, Joe. What do we have a nice list, a rundown for the show. What's the first topic for the day? Well, we're at the end of the week of Fiestas Patria. Looks like Joe's frozen with love. His love for the country has frozen him with happiness, or it could be Cable Onda again. I'm betting on both, probably a little bit of both. But while the internet gets back up to speed so that we can both talk about it, I'm just going to touch on a few of the subjects. I mean, hey, you're back, my friend. I bet you that was the most amazing speech that you just gave, and we all didn't hear it. That's what always happens. Your audio's not working. I can't hear your audio. Let me see if I can refresh. Let me see if I can refresh you. Hey, why don't you log out and log back into your page? We're not getting audio. All right. As soon as Joe comes back, there's a lot of things that happen in Panama. Christopher Columbus and Balboa came to Panama, and it was an instrumental place for Spain because all of the silver and gold and sugar and riches came across Panama on their way to, and Joe's back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back with audio. That's what I like, because
thank the good Lord.
Not only are you a very handsome man, but we enjoy your voice and your commentary. So welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Okay. Your audio is a little low, so I'm going to boost you up a little bit. No problema. So what I was just saying to the crowd is, Panama has always played a very strategic role in a strategic area. During the colonial times, it had the gold for Spain. And so I think the first day of independence, even though it's not part of Fiesta Patria, is the independence from Spain.
Without a doubt.
1821, I believe it was.
1821, that's right. On the 28th of November, 1821.
I wanted to, before we kick off on the 3rd of November and Flag Day one, I want to drop some knowledge on y'all.
Drop knowledge. Drop it. Drop it.
So when Panama got their independence from Spain, Spain actually gave them a flag and a charter. And I want you guys to take a look at this. There we go. There it is. See if I can zoom it.
That was the flag that Spain gifted.
This is
to Panama.
This is the current flag of a municipality of Panama.
That's right.
Which which was the flag that Spain gave Panama for its independence. And I only bring this up because it bears a striking resemblance to the flags of Spain at the time. So if you're a possession of Spain, you would have a flag very similar to this one. And so when they got their independence, Panama, uh, it's a checkerboard version of that original flag. And to this day, this is the flag of the municipality of Panama. And that partially explains why you have the SPI police and then the national police. So technically, the presidential police are municipal police, but they run side by side with the national police of Panama. So random knowledge there. Let's continue with the topic at hand. Joe, take it away.
So I think before we got to the 28th of November, it's very important to understand what happened on another day in November. Yes, a lot of things happened during the month of November, and that was on the 10th of November in Los Santos. Because on the 10th of November is when this whole situation of independence from day kind of kicked off. I think Panama had been thinking for a while, like, hey, I need to get I mean, this is word by word. This is what happened in Los Santos. They were like, yo, we gotta separate from Spain, and they were like, that's what's up, man. And then Rufina Alfaro came along, and she said, let's get independent. So Rufina Alfaro said, let's get independent. A woman, very independent, strong woman, and then that's when the wheels started turning for the independence from Spain. Now,
so what's some of the lore behind this very important historical person?
So it's very interesting that you would ask that, HB, because throughout the years, people have not been able to find any sort of evidence,
like a birth register of birth, or
nothing that Rufina Alfaro ever existed. So I mean, digging around on the internet, you can find all mentions of this person's name, and there's even a statue of her, but
who was she? Where was she born? What was she all about?
She was about independence, apparently.
Yeah. So do you know the actual lore behind her?
No, I don't. Do you?
Well,
tell me.
I do. We have a few questions. We have some audience participation. Ralph Furlong wants to know, where can I get a beard like Rapscallions? I told him he can order it from us. We'll save our clippings, and you just kind of paste it on.
Paste them on there.
Also, a big shout out to my brother Hugo Cabrera, aka Juice. Good to see you online, my friend. It's been too long. He's joining us from the States, but he's originally from Colón. He's a Colomboy.
Juice, love it.
So he might be able to give us some traditions from Colón. So as far as Rufina Alfaro, the legend that I heard was that she ran a food stand, and the Spanish or the Colombian and Spanish soldiers would take advantage and not pay her, would run up their bill and not pay her. So she began kind of like the underground railroad of independence there from her food stand. And that's how it started, by people not paying their bills.
Right. So they would see. So that's what happens when you don't pay your bills. People are going to want to leave and separate from you.
Yeah.
So then, that got the motors turning, man. And people were just like, we need to gain independence from Spain because they don't pay their bills.
Right. They don't pay their bills. How am I supposed to make my sancocho and original Panamanian foods if we're not getting the bills?
I totally agree.
So that's the legend as I heard it. I'm sure there's plenty more of them out there. So what's next on the list of Independence Week folklore?
All right. So we've covered the 10th of November. We discussed what happened then. 10th of November moved along to the 28th of November. Boom. Separation. This was described to be like a bloodless separation. Was it very calm?
I think it was just a matter of signing some documents.
Bloodless revolution. Apparently, Jose de Fábrega, who was the governor of Panama at the time, he led the push for independence in the city when the governor of Panama left to deal with some Ecuadorians. I guess the Ecuadorians were messing around. So he was like, I got to go deal with this. The governor left. Jose de Fábrega came through, and he was like, this is happening.
I'm handling it.
I'm handling this business. We're separating from Spain. As you say, I think just some documents were signed because by the looks of it, Spain was just like, hey, guys, wish you the best. Have this flag.
That's right. We even though we had all this gold and silver delivered to us, we're bankrupt, and uh, here's your country, here's a flag, and here's a charter. How about
Yeah,
that?
we don't want any problems. We don't want any problems. Just go about your business. So then Panama says, "Yo, you know what sounds like a good idea? There's this project. It's called La Gran Colombia. Let me jump on that
Mm-hmm.
and see what happens." So
Uh,
you know what Panama did? Joined the Gran Colombia.
Colombia.
That's right.
So where in the timeline are we? I got a little lost because we've got a Simon Bolivar in here somewhere, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, he was one of the great dudes that was behind the Gran Colombia.
Right.
Wasn't it his? It was his grand idea to have the Gran Colombia all set
All as
up and
one.
stuff and all as one. I mean, and it was like a ton of countries. It was like, let's see, do we can we show a map?
Let me
It
pull
was
that up.
Venezuela, it was Colombia, including Panama, and it was Ecuador. That is a ton of countries. It was the Gran
Yeah,
Colombia.
that's
Could you
a lot
imagine?
of space there.
Could you imagine if we were still the Gran Colombia right now? We'd be like a powerhouse, a geographical powerhouse
Let's see. I've got
right
a
now.
picture right here. Let's see if I can pull that up. Oh, hold on. The internet is not my friend today.
Nah, man, don't worry, man.
I lost it. So anyway, let's go back to talking. We don't need
Yeah,
pictures. We will paint pictures with our beautiful voices.
with our beautiful voices, man. Hey, I think so. We told the people, right? So, Simon Bolivar, the man you just mentioned, he was
Mhm.
president of the Grand Colombia from 1819 to 1830.
Right.
All right. And of course, everyone knows Simon Bolivar as the liberator.
Yeah.
And he was a Venezuelan military and political leader who led currently the countries of Venezuela, Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Panama to independence from the Spanish Empire. So this man was just all over the place.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they talk about his passage over the Andes Mountains with his troops is a much more impressive feat than Hannibal crossing the Alps with elephants and whatnot. So,
Right?
I mean, he in midwinter he crossed with his troops, which was comprised of mostly farmers and ragtag people, and he defeated armies of Spain. So
Yeah.
pretty impressive feat by that gentleman. And he,
He was
he also has a very famous quote. You can find it in Casco Viejo. He said that if the world were to need to name its capital, Panama should have that noble title, because you look north and south, you have North and South America, east and west. Panama is so centric to the whole world that it should be the capital of the world. That's a quote from Simon Bolivar that I've massacred with my machete, but it
mm,
just is there.
for sure. Hey, listen, I think if Panama was the center or the capital of the world, as he said, I think our ego as
Boom.
Panamanians would be through the roof,
Huge,
man.
huge.
Through
Too
the
soon.
roof. Oh, by the way, we didn't talk about that. Congratulations, you have a new president, man.
Yay.
Good
I want
job.
to know why Joe Jorgensen didn't win.
I
That's
don't
that
know.
would have been my vote.
I don't know, man. I hear you. He got very few votes. He got or she got. I don't know.
She,
I saw the name there. I saw the name. I assumed it was a dude,
it's a
but
she.
it's a woman.
It's a her.
She.
It's a lady.
Sorry, lady Joe. Ah, of course, because it was J-O.
Yeah, Juice wants to know about cable and wireless. They don't reach to my house, Juice.
They don't juice. They don't. Very sad. You know what you need, HB? You need independence from cable. You need independence from Caleonda.
I do.
You need independence from them. You should lead a revolution.
I will. At the risk of sounding treasonous, all this independence that we're talking about, uh, it kind of leads into the next topic, which is the 3rd of November, right? Is that where
That's
we're at
right.
on the timeline?
Yeah, pretty much, man. Pretty much. So we have Panama's in the Gran Colombia, and I guess things weren't going that great in the Gran Colombia. I mean, we were there, and we were like, we thought this was like a great idea.
Mhm.
Seemed like it at the time, but now, not so much, because the Colombians weren't very nice to the people who lived in the Department of Panama.
Yes. Yeah, there was a lot of, Spain treated, even though its geographical position was extremely important, Spain treated Panama like a backwater.
Mm-hmm.
Colombia, which was the head of, it had universities and legal and administrative centers, also treated Panama as a backwater. And there was, I think, the event that you were leading up to, Joe.
Yes. So we had. Are you talking about the Thousand Days War?
Yes, sir.
Indeed. Indeed. So there was this war called the Thousand Days War, and if I remember correctly, the Thousand Days War, which ran for 1,000 days, was from 1899 to 1902, and it was a civil war in Colombia between the liberals and the conservatives. So the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party. These guys did not get along. The conservatives were in power at the time, and for the most part, they were in Panama. So the liberals wanted to create a disturbance in Panama to try and take power from the conservatives.
Now,
Right?
it's very important that this is pointed out because in Panama was, as you all know, the Panama Railroad, which was the first
Mm-hmm.
transcontinental railroad in the world. And it is to this day the most successful company ever to be on the New York Stock Exchange. So
Mm-hmm.
we've done shows about the railroad, about Rand Reynolds, how they brought in this Texas Ranger and he just started hanging up bad guys. That guy was oof, a legend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you had a lot of powers at play here. You had the liberals and the conservatives in Colombia trying to make a scene in Panama. You
Mm-hmm.
had the railroad, which is heavily vested by the powers that be in the New York Stock Exchange, which are probably the same people in power today,
Mm. Yeah.
with lizard people.
Yep. The puppet masters, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of tension around 1902 in Panama. They've tried independence before. They actually achieved independence. I think it was for only 30 days.
Hmm.
I want to say in 1931, but don't quote me on that. Very short lived. So we're in 1902, and the United States. Oh, well, we forgot to mention that there was also the French endeavor in Panama. So
Mm-hmm.
the railroad was a success, and then Ferdinand de Lesseps wanted to build a sea level canal in Panama. I believe what 1885. I need you to fact check me on that one.
I'm checking. I'm fact checking right now, my friend.
Do we have a budget for the 1881? I was close. So I guess they failed in 1885. I was close. I was close. Do we have a budget for a research department?
We do not have the budget. I think it's just you and me.
Oh, okay.
It's just you
All
and me,
right.
my friend.
All right. We'll make do. We'll make do.
Yes, we will.
If you want
That's
to
for now.
donate to our research department, please find us on Ko-fi, or you can also send us some money in a little envelope. It'd be not very nice. Uh,
DM us.
DM us. We can figure it out. If you got the will, we got the way.
That's right.
So back
1881, you
to
said, right?
the
1881.
1881.
Uh huh.
So there was the French endeavor in Panama, and uh, I'm a very proud Zonian, but I want to mention here that the French achieved more in their first year of excavation than the U.S. did. They had serious trials and tribulations, serious problems with tropical diseases, and what finally put them over the edge was the mismanagement of funds. So they just had
Can you
a.
imagine? That's crazy.
Mhm.
Because see, I think the story that is normally told to people was just that the French were just not ready. Like they totally mishandled what they needed to do to be prepared to build a canal, and they were basically wiped out by malaria and dengue and all the jungle-borne diseases that exist in Panama. But I
Yeah.
think mismanagement of funds isn't something that's widely ever discussed.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. It was horrible. Actually, I think Delesseps' son went to jail for it in France. Um, but having said all of that, the French, they started off with a few engineering principles that doomed them to failure. They tried to do sea level as they did in Suez,
Mm-hmm.
with a much different type of geography and terrain. In
Right.
Suez, it was flat and there was sand. Uh,
Yeah.
sea level canal is attainable in that type of environment. But in Panama, you have the continental divide, which means you would have this. If they were able to continue digging, they would have had this huge corridor of mountain on either side. And hindsight's always 2020. And we also know
sure.
that even with the system of locks, the United States had a huge problem with landslides. So
Mm.
that would have been another inevitability for the French. And in addition to that, the power of Mother Nature. In addition to the tropical disease, there was also floods, which we talked about earlier
Mhm.
today. The rains that we got from ETA, rivers were just growing, and so the French would build a bridge somewhere along the Chagres, try to build a dam of some sort, and then a rainstorm would happen. The river would rise 14 feet and just wash everything away. You know,
Yeah.
so uh, so
That must have been
there,
frustrating. Very frustrating.
it led to failure.
For sure. For sure.
And so the lock system that the U.S. used actually was devised by a Frenchman, but de Lesseps rejected it. Um, Lepine was the guy's name. Anyway, I'm going to
And
get too
then
much into the canal history. Let's move
yeah.
forward. So the French had been through here. The they were currently owners of the stockholders were holding several millions of dollars worth of, of land rights, equipment rights, bonds, and whatnot. And just to generalize very quickly, they wanted to recoup their money, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So um, you're coming in very low. Is there any way you can turn your mic up?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's coming in low. It's like a
Let
little
me see.
knob or something you can turn. I can't
What
turn it
about
up anymore.
now? No, man. It's closer to me now. Does that
There you
help?
go.
All right.
Much, very much.
Cool.
Uh, so how do we want to approach this topic of Panama independence? Where would you like to start?
Okay, so check it out. While this is going on, so the French are trying to build the canal, and then you also have the liberals and the conservatives going at it, right?
Yeah.
And they're just going at it in Panama City. And I think here the French had an interest in Panama, obviously, because of the canal. The U.S. had an interest in Panama, obviously, because of the railroad. So then the consuls at the time were apparently working behind the scenes to kind of organize some sort of a peace treaty between the liberals and the conservatives because they couldn't have all this violence going on while they're trying to build a canal and they're trying to run a successful railroad,
Yeah.
right? So then this is happening, and but the liberals are still like, nah, man, forget you guys. We don't like these conservatives, and we want to kill all of them, right? Because
Harsh, man.
that's what they did at the time. If you had a problem with someone, you shot them and you killed them, and then you were cool. So then, as the war kept going on more and more, the U.S. actually stepped in. I didn't know this. So then the U.S. kind of stepped in and told the Colombian forces, they were like, well, the U.S. consul, told them, he said, hey, man, we're not going to allow any fighting to happen in Panama City or in Colon or along the railroad,
Right.
And even though Colombia was coming in, apparently it had about 9,000 men. What happened when the U.S. was like, hey, we're going to put our foot down? They were
Right.
like, sorry, man,
Yeah.
we didn't
My
mean
bad.
it. We didn't mean
Was
it.
there's and just to add some points of history. A lot of people
Yeah,
talk
do it,
about
do
the
it.
canal zone as it was reverted back to Panama recently, but there was also uh, it wasn't called the canal zone. It was I can't remember the exact name for it, but it was something. Uh, Zona del Ferrocarril. The railroad actually had a corridor that it was also in charge of. So even when before Panama got its independence and when it was part of the Gran Colombia, there was a stretch of land that was in control of people from the United States. And a lot of people overlook that fact.
And that's one of the things I didn't know. I found out about that recently was the huge importance that the railroad played in Panama. Like it was massive. It was more than just having a train that transported people from one place to the net from one coast to the other. Like this was the people that worked for the railroad, the Panamanians that worked for the railroad, the Americans that were here on the railroad. These people were of great importance.
Absolutely.
They had a substantial amount of clout within
Indeed.
within the country.
Indeed.
Um,
Is that foreshadowing, Joe? Is that foreshadowing that you're doing there?
Yes, it
love it.
is. Because I don't think many people know that. Because I mean, you talk about the train now, you're like, oh yeah, the train, like the one that I get on in Corozal, and I take to go to Gamboa or to Colon or whatever, and it's kind of
Right.
like,
All right. Even
I
the
mean,
legends we heard from our grandparents or aunts and uncles about how they would jump on the train. When I grew up, the train had already been turned over to Panama, and it was in ruin. They were cutting it apart for scrap metal. It wasn't running. So that's my memories of the train growing up.
yeah,
So recently, I've worked quite a bit with the railroad as a tour guide and helping them film stuff, and that in itself is a very interesting story. The deal that they got from the government of Panama to rehabilitate the train as we know it today.
yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, back to the past.
Right. So we're in. I think I forgot the year that I was in. What year was I in? I
We
must
were
have been
talking
about
about maybe 1900s or so.
1902. So
Mhm.
boom, the U.S. steps in. They're like, dudes, it's not gonna happen. Like, you're not gonna fight in Panama or Colón or along the railroad. And then, Colombia was just like, yeah, okay, man, that's fine. So then, the fear they had that the US might intervene or attack, they were just like, okay, we're just gonna call it off and just not go on with the attack because the US isn't having it. And yeah, it's just not gonna happen. So then, they started peace negotiations at the time, and that's what it came down to.
Yeah. So you have to look up. You have to look up. There's several different points of view on how that how that war ended,
Mm,
and I think we're going to be going back and forth here. A lot of people in Panama, historians in Panama, classify in two categories: the historia de oro y la historia negra. So you have the black
yeah.
version and the gold version, and we'll try and be balanced about it and try to give both sides of it so you can do your own research and draw your own conclusions. Okay, you're back.
I'm back. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Okay. All right,
But yeah,
so
sorry. Go
we're
ahead.
on or
Carry on.
around 1902,
Yeah.
and uh, Independence Day was actually on. Well, I think I'm getting ahead of myself. A lot of things were coming together.
Hmm.
There, you had Bonneville, which was a
Hmm.
Frenchman who had a major investment into the old French Canal. He was lobbying to sell the rights to the canal to the United States. And
Hmm.
now the United States has been interested in building a canal since the times of Lincoln, who sent Grant down, and Lincoln's actual personal secretary. Can you tell us all his name?
Oh, yeah, I think his name was John Hay.
John Hay. Hey,
John Hay.
yeah. So Lincoln's personal secretary was John Hay. He sent Grant down here to investigate under the guise of moving troops to San Francisco, and they were met with horrible, horrible cholera problems, and Grant lost most of his troops to cholera.
Hmm.
Anyway, I'm going off track here. There have been several surveys over the years about building a canal in Central America, and on or around the time that we're talking about, there were there were a few opposing uh, there were a few opposing points of view here. So you had a canal through Nicaragua, and the other side was a canal through
Through Panama.
Panama. Now,
Hmm.
if everyone talks about um, Roosevelt, but Roosevelt became president because of the assassination of William McKinley,
That's right.
and the election had just taken place, and it's a fascinating story. McKinley had sent people to Central America to do surveys to find out where would be the best place, but he wasn't really gung ho about it. And when they were deciding who was going to be the presidential candidates for the next election, a lot of the people were afraid that um, you know Roosevelt was making a lot of noise, and he was cleaning up New York. He cleaned up New York as the police chief, and he was huge in the uh, as a naval historian. Some of his books are still used today, and he also um, the Spanish American War. He charged San Juan Hill with the Rough Riders,
Mm.
and and it was there that he wrote back because he lost more people in San Juan, in Cuba. He lost more people to um, tropical diseases than he did from any battle. So it was actually there that he charged one of his physicians to investigate what was causing people to get sick, and that's where Gorgas came across my memory. This Seiko is affecting my memory, but
You can
he
do it,
came
man. You can do it.
across a Cuban doctor who had a theory, and Gorgas helped him put it to the test. And they realized that malaria, yellow fever, and other tropical diseases were transmitted by mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes, man. That's why it's bad.
I
If you
think it was
see,
Alberto Finley or something like that.
I don't know, the name escapes me, man. Let's see. Are you fact checking it?
Carlos Juan Finley.
Finley,
His
there you
name.
go. There
So
you go.
so it was. I mean, all you have all these events coming together of Roosevelt being in Cuba, uh, having someone put into effect measures to control mosquitoes,
Mm.
and then McKinley being this new elections coming up, and they were afraid that this young upstart named Roosevelt was going to overshadow McKinley's reelection, so they made him vice. They put him on the ticket as the vice president to
Right.
try and calm him down, right? So then McKinley gets assassinated, and guess who's president? Is Theodore Roosevelt, and
That's
he's
right.
like, "We're going to build a canal in Panama."
Yeah, man.
That's how it is. So,
He was super gung
well,
ho.
no, he said we're going to build a canal. They still hadn't
Yeah,
decided where it would be dug yet.
that's right. That's right. And then you have Bruno Varilla, who's coming around with all this experience that he had from the French attempt, all this knowledge. And of course, for him, you know, it was important that it be done in Panama because he had spent some, cheers, my friend. He'd spent
Cheers.
some time in Panama and he was like, I'm going to make this happen in Panama. I understand he was also, going to
Major
make a pretty penny
stakeholder,
off of this. Yeah,
right?
exactly. Massive
So,
stakeholder.
so he did a few pretty ingenious things, like when he mailed his suggestions to the U.S. Senate about whether or not to build in Panama. He used a stamp. He included a stamp of Nicaragua showing a volcano erupting. So it brought about the concern of, should we build in Nicaragua? Is there too many? Is it geologically stable, or should we build in Panama? And a lot of fans, it's like we lost internet altogether. We didn't lose Joe. We lost everything. I don't know if I should just keep talking or wait for the internet to come back. My all my dials and whistles are saying that we're at zero, and that's not good when you're trying to live stream. I just want to give a shout out. If you're there, I'll give you guys a shout. There, we're back. Amazing.
What is going on today, man?
Okay, and that's the end of our show. Thank you for tuning in, guys.
Thanks for
I just
tuning in.
explained everything perfectly. It's a perfect explanation of everything that happened, and undoubtedly, I'm going to win a Nobel Prize for history.
Definitely, definitely.
Oh my God, I'm out of breath. I'm gonna drink after that.
Oh gosh, what did I miss? What did I miss?
Oh, should I go over it again?
Yes, please.
Oh, shoot. All right, so we're talking about Bonavaria before we're cut out.
Yeah.
Let me check all the streams, see if we're still alive. Another shout out to Cable Onda for their excellent service. Again, cable and wireless, them don't reach, no call.
No, dog.
Let me check all my dials, make sure we're still live.
We're live on Instagram, but quiet on the comments. We got a thumbs up from Anna Jones, but I think she's logged off since then.
Okay. All right, well, let's just keep going. Bonavaria.
So
Leap-
as we said, massive stakeholder. He wanted the canal built in Panama. Did you already mention the thing about the stamps?
Yeah, I think we need to repeat it because I was off the air. So go ahead and
Yeah.
talk about the stamps.
So he was trying to convince all the main decision makers with regards to where the canal was going to be made that this had to happen in Panama. And he was like, "Man, I need to convince these people that Panama is much more stable and secure than having a canal in Nicaragua will ever be." So you know what this guy did? He sent letters to all these people, and on these letters he put stamps. And what was on these stamps? Exploding volcanoes in Nicaragua. So imagine, let's say you're trying to build a canal in Nicaragua and you're just digging around, causing tremors and stuff, and you got active volcanoes. What's gonna happen?
Badoom.
Badoom. Badoom
Yeah.
doom.
And also you have, the legend is of the flat arch, where that an arch, as you guys know, spreads the weight out over an arch. But in Casco Viejo, in Panama City, there's a flat arch, which is architecturally very weak. But somehow this flat arch had stood for hundreds of years, showing that geologically Panama is a very stable area.
That's right. That's right.
So this guy Bonavaria, he wanted to recoup his money. He
Mhm.
wanted his money back. There were some forces, you had a lot of people were leaning towards Nicaragua. You also had the Guerra de Mil Días. It was
Mhm.
like, oh man, look at this, Colombia. What's up with Colombia?
Mhm.
They're having this war there, as you mentioned. The United States
Mhm.
intervened. I don't think that's part of popular history today in Panama.
No.
But all of that made Panama look kind of sketchy. You had the French had already failed here.
Yep.
So, as far as pros and cons, Nicaragua was looking good at the time. But then the tide started changing a little bit. Panama, because of the tactics that you mentioned from Bonavaria and the lobbying that he did, plus there was a group of Panamanians that had showed a great interest in separating from Colombia.
Yep.
And because this is an addition of my own, because
Right.
of the success of the railroad
Mhm.
on the stock market, there was a lot of very wealthy private interest who said, if we did it before in Panama, maybe we can do it again. Let's
Mhm.
see if lightning will strike twice. So the tide started changing back towards Panama, and then there was a notable person from the U.S. government that kind of saw, and he's not really that far forward in the history books today. But would you happen to know his name, Joe?
His name, but there's so many people right now that I'm thinking about that could
Actually,
potentially.
you made a rap video about him.
John Hay.
Yeah, so we've come
There's
full
so many people
circle.
in my head.
Yeah,
For sure. Seriously, man. So John Hay was behind a lot of treaties, guys, that kind of also, as HB says, so many things happened to help us get to where we were, you know? So, I mean, he was behind the Hay Pauncefoot Treaty with the UK, which basically the UK kind of stepped back and said, okay, we'll let the US kind of take sort of like an overarching sort of supervisory role of what's going on over there, because of course the UK at this time, the United Kingdom, for those of you that don't know, they were losing a lot of that, kind of like the way Spain was losing power in their colonies. The United Kingdom was also losing sort of that influence in their colonies, and the United Kingdom and the US have always had a very special relationship, you know sort of like we work together and stuff. Of course that kind of zigzagged along the years, but during this time the UK was like, hey, the US, we get along with them, so let's let this happen. So John
right.
Hay was there. Hay Pauncefoot Treaty was signed. London was like, okay, whatever. So then the US establishes themselves in the network, in the region, as sort of like a powerhouse. They're like,
Yeah,
we know what's going on, we got this you know
yeah.
so this kind of helped to set the wheels rolling for what the US could potentially do in the region, including the canal in
Right.
Nicaragua or in Panama.
It strengthened, so to speak, the Monroe Doctrine, which is the Hay Pauncefote kind of established the United States as the policing force of the Western Hemisphere.
That's right. That's right. So then, the wheels kept turning, and then the U.S. started trying. The U.S. with thoughts of making the canal in Panama when it was still part of the Gran Colombia, they were trying to get the Hay Treaty signed, right? And again, John Hay had his fingers in this pie. And what happened? And this, I think, was one of the. It was, of course, it was definitely important in Panamanian history because Colombia rejected the Hay Treaty, and the U.S. was already like, "Hey,
I have my
sorry,
theories about that.
what's that?"
Because the Hay was about the U.S. taking over the French concession. Now, in my opinion, I think Colombia, which is actually pretty smart, Colombia wanted the concession to run out for for France, and then deal with a fresh deal with the United States. That's what I think. I think that's what was behind their strategy.
Right.
But that's where Bonaveria stepped in once again. He's like, "Hey, these Colombians are not trustworthy. Why don't you break off a little piece of isthmus for yourself there, Roosevelt?"
Yeah. And then, of course, Roosevelt, man, he was, a firebrand. This guy was like, hey, man, we're the U.S. We're doing it big. And of course, during this time, the U.S. was really into growing their influence, growing their power, expansionism, exactly. So, I mean, I'd like to think, and then this is where we get into the whole thing about what HP was talking about the black legend. What was it? La leyenda negra, la leyenda de oro.
Right. So you have the perfect Panamanian
Yeah.
version, which is very patriotic. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum is where it was all done to line someone's pocket. So the truth usually ends up being somewhere in between. You have several different versions of things, but at the risk of sounding, if someone offered me money right now to get rid of the Asamblea and start a new Panama under ideal conditions, I think I might have to contemplate that.
I mean, come on now. I would like to think it was a collaborative effort.
I think
because
so.
I definitely don't think you could separate. I mean, there were Panamanians that wanted to separate from Colombia, without a doubt, and people died and battles were fought.
Right.
If it would have been one of these things where it was just kind of like, here's some money, okay, of course, then it would have just kind of been like, okay, great.
I think it was a collaboration, and it was in the best interests of everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone had a mutual interest in seeing a more prosperous Panama. United States wanted to build a canal there. The Panamanians wanted to separate from Colombia after many years of poor treatment. And Colombia kind of fell asleep on the deal. I think their strategy was a correct one, but they didn't get a proper a proper climate for what was going on in Panama.
Yeah.
And I don't think they considered what the lengths with which Bonaveria would go to in order to get this done.
Man, talk about persistence, man. That is persistence personified. I mean, because also if you think about it, again, going back to the thing of so many things, so many things. I got excited there. So many things coming together at the same time, right? If you're Panama and you're being treated like a backwater, first you treated like a backwater by Spain. You're like, man, why am I so underappreciated? Then you join La Gran Colombia, which has Simón Bolívar as the leader, and this guy is, I'm assuming, I never met the guy, but I'm assuming he was charismatic as heck, and he's saying like, man, Panama should be the center, the capital of the world. You're like, we're important, but then you're a part of Colombia, and again, you're being you get treated like the backwater.
He got offed. Apparently, he died of tuberculosis. He died of stabulosis.
Stabulosis for sure, man.
And then the Gran Colombia was carved up into spheres of influence.
Corruption.
And then Panama once again was demoted to backwater, even though it had the railroad, even though it was a very important geopolitical area.
That's right. And then you had these people fighting for liberation. One of these, of course, was Victoriano Lorenzo, who was fighting in the Thousand Days War, and he died. I think he died in 1903, like a couple of months before Panama obtained its independence.
It's a very important story, because I think it's one that has repeated itself. Is there were he was a general, but he was also a native, but an
That's right.
educated native. And
That's right.
when a lot of the people who were fighting for Panamanian independence, uh, they decided not to proceed, and he retreated into the hills.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he kept on fighting.
That's right.
So a lot of people, I don't know the exact names, but people had invited him for a meeting, and they captured him. So he was betrayed by his own friends or his
Yeah.
fellow generals as a scapegoat or a martyr, and he was shot.
Yeah, because he wasn't down. He wasn't down for that treaty, that peace treaty that they signed. He was like, no, we're gonna keep on fighting because this needs to change.
Yeah.
But I guess nobody told him. They would have said like, hey man, keep it cool. You know, in a couple of months we're gonna get the U.S. to intervene even more, and then we're gonna get our independence. I guess they didn't tell him that,
They off that dude, man.
which really sucks.
And that's
Because
the same tactic that they used against Uraka too. They're like, hey, let's have a meeting, and then they captured Uraka. But Uraka, man, that guy's a legend. We got to do a show about
yeah,
that guy.
for
He
sure,
jumped
man,
off the
for
ship
sure.
in the middle of the ocean and swam home.
Man, I don't know who could ever do that, man. Only him.
Yeah.
That's why he's
Yeah.
on the penny.
Yeah.
Hey, man. But listen, so then what happened? We're at 3:57. We're gonna cut off from Instagram. I think we're in full effect. We're gonna
I
cut off
only got
soon.
only got a few people following on Insta, I believe. So join us over. We're going to keep going live on Facebook Live and YouTube and on Periscope. I don't know where those video feeds, they just shoot off into the ether. But thank you for joining us on Instagram. Let's tune in next week. And we're live every Sunday at 3 p.m. So let's keep
Oh,
going, Joe.
and
Keep
Ming
shooting
Toy,
that knowledge out to people on Facebook.
before we cut
Go.
off at Instagram, Ming Toy says, "Lesson learned: no more meetings." Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't go to meetings.
Yeah. No more Zoom meetings either.
No more Zoom meetings, because the minute you get into a Zoom meeting, you're gonna get offed.
Yeah. You're
All
like,
right, you're gonna get off.
am I going to get fired? I don't know.
I don't know.
Strange and horrible things happen in meetings.
It's an ambush. So, fast forward, or rather, back in time, but fast forwarding from the past.
Nice.
Victoriano Lorenzo, he got done. He was done. And then what happens? You have all these, and then here's where like I was just like, because of the importance of the Panama Canal Railroad, because it had a lot to do with the independence. You had people like James Shaler, who played a key role. Yeah, you know him well. He played a key role in independence and in the independence of Panama. And Manuel Amador Guerrero worked for the railroad.
Mhm.
You know,
He was the
so
physician for the railroad.
he was a physician for the railroad, which I don't ever remember having heard that in when I did his Panamanian history in high school here. But I was just blown away because again, it grew. It helped to promote the thought of a collaborative effort for independence. Because I think the U.S. as much as Panama were kind of saying, "Hey, it would benefit us. It would benefit us all." For there
Hey, I
to
want to
be
give a
an
shout out to my
Panama.
buddy Sean Scott, man. Just saw your message here 31 minutes ago. If you're still tuned in, big hugs, and please give Coach Scott a big hug for me too. He just made a post about that. Okay, so back. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just get
Yeah,
excited when
no.
people give us shout outs.
Take us away with the railroad because I know you know a lot about this. So Manuel Amaro Guerrero, physician for the railroad, one of the main próceres.
Right.
And the próceres, for those of you who don't know, are like the main dudes who were involved, dudes and dudettes, because I like to think Maria Osa was also, she was in there. She was in that crew.
I think this would be a good time to mention that we acted together in the play 1903, and Joe played, amongst other characters, John Hay,
John Hay, that's right.
and I
Secretary
played
Pete.
Shaler.
Boom.
So there's a lot of cool things to mention about Shaler. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but he was in Cologne. He was very integrated into Panamanian life. He's very well liked. He considered himself Colonense from Aspinwall. He was one of the original Colonenses. He loved the country, and so when there was talks about a separation, one of the things that happened that included the railroad was in the capital city of Panama, on the Pacific coast, they had all their ducks in a row about how to reach independence. And the only problem was like, how do we deal with Colombia and in the play that we're in, and some of the historical texts. I believe it was Maria Osa that came up with the idea of making sure the troops stayed in Colon.
Which was brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. So Shaler told them that the railroad was broken, thereby not allowing the troops to get from the troops that had landed in Colon to come to the Pacific side to quell the coup d'etat, or from our point of view, the separation, the democratic and republic separation from Colombia. It's all about perspective, people.
That's right.
He told them that the railroad wasn't working, and that he could send, well, one version of the history. He only sent the generals over, and when they got to Panama City, they were arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Another version states that everyone stayed in Colon, and when the Colombian battleships and the troops were about to start fighting, Shaler provided the money in order to bribe the troops to not proceed. Now, I don't know if that was in gold or in bolivares or what currency it was. I've never been able to track that down. And it's off topic, but the gold and silver roll also started during the railroad. That's another historical fact. But he lent that money, and the version that I heard was that he's the one that did the bribe with the troops from Colombia. Now, a version of the play, which, as far as storytelling, several characters have to be integrated in order to have a cohesive stage play.
That's right.
So who was the person that did the actual bribing in the play for Panama on behalf of Panama?
Porfirio Melendez,
the Panamanian governor of Colon.
Colon, that's right.
So they were successful in calming down the Colombian troops with a bribe, and also there was the support of a battleship, or was it a destroyer? There was a U.S. military ship in the bay, and just to show U.S. Now they were there under the guise of you can't mess with the railroad, right? But also they had their own interests in Panama separating from Colombia, because Panama would grant them. The new heads of the Panamanian government had already met and agreed to let the United States build their canal in Panama. So I think it goes beyond the scope of this webcast today, because there's so many details there, but we can paint it for you guys in broad strokes. Oh, your audio's out again. So just some, why don't you try logging out and back in again? So thanks again to Cableonda. Another shout out to Cableonda for our unstable internet. A few interesting facts. We're going to get into Flag Day, and because of what happened in Colon, he's back. I'm going to jump around history as far as Shaler is concerned. Once Panama City declared its independence on the 3rd of November, which is the start of Fiestas Patrias. What day is Dia de Colon, or Colon Day?
The 5th of November.
5th of November. So that's when the city of Colon was able to join Panama City in independence celebrations, because they still hadn't calmed the troops and the situation that they were in because of Colombia.
That's right, because Panama City had declared independence before. So then Colon caught up a couple days later.
Caught up. They did their shenanigans and briberies, and were able to, for the most part, it was a bloodless transition again.
Yeah.
And so Shaler was offered the honor of raising the Panama flag in Colon for the first time, but he actually negated it. He was too humble to do that, and the governor of Aspinwall raised it. In the play, Porfirio Melendez raised it.
That's right.
And, as far as the honor of raising flags, I want to jump forward in history a little bit.
Let's do it. Let's jump.
Now that we're talking about Panama Independence, the railroad, and the importance of Shaler, there is a monument to Shaler, and it's called Shaler's Triangle, which is up by 4th of July, where the martyrs symbol is at, where the martyrs shrine is at.
Yeah.
So Martyrs Day was students of Panama marching into the Canal Zone to have their flag raised in Balboa High School. Now,
That's right. 9th of January, 1963.
right. So before that date, there was a flag of Panama flying in the Canal Zone due to presidential agreement.
Right.
And by coincidence, do you know where it was flying? They raised it.
Shaler's Triangle.
Shaler's Triangle, right next to 4th of July. So there was a Panamanian flag flying in the Canal Zone in Shaler's Triangle before Martyrs Day occurred. And if we go back in history, he was offered the opportunity to raise the flag in Colón because of the part he played in their independence. So I thought that was a pretty neat connection of history.
For sure. And I think one of the things that I think has surprised me the most while learning about the topic and just kind of getting to know all these different characters in Panamanian history, which again, having done 5th and 6th year or 11th and 12th grade in a high school here in Panama, I very rarely heard of the key American players such as Shaler, or any of the other ones that lived here in Panama. I mean, they played a very important role, and they loved Panama. Like they lived here. Like I think whenever I've been reading about, even reading about the characters with Rand Runnels and the ones that were involved with him and everything that he did, the different U.S. consuls that were based here at the time. Like for them, there was they cared about Panama and where they lived in. So I think, the independence thing and the whole working and collaboration really was there. It was truly a collaborative effort. It wasn't any of this like, let me give you your independence. It was more kind of like, let me help you to achieve your independence.
I agree with you.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that I think people really need to understand, because I think Panamanians fought for their independence without a doubt. And as a Panamanian, I'm really proud to be able to say that and believe that. And it wasn't sort of like, I'm going to give this to you because I'm going to create, I think there's a book called When Wall Street Created a Nation. I haven't read it, but just for me, from the title, I can understand what it might potentially be about,
It's there's a few contemporary points of view, like anti-imperialist and anti-colonial, that the authors of those books kind of take those points of views when they reinterpret history. They do include a lot of facts, but I think they are biased. I have my own biases because I grew up hearing a certain version, and then all of a sudden I hear a different version. So, this idea of the polar opposites of the history, the gold and the black version. I mean, I can get behind that, because we weren't there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you can always understand them. And I think it's very important to know that, opinions and points of views are just that, opinions and points of views. I mean, unless we were there, and like you just said, you weren't there, I wasn't there. Like, we don't know what really happened.
I think Ralph was there. Ralphie, you were there. Chime in.
You were there? What was it like? Was it cold? I heard Panama was cold during that time.
Yeah, I think Panama was cooler. People were wearing dresses and suits and stuff. And now everyone's in chancletas.
True that, man. These guys were all dressed. They were decked out. They were decked out in like their finest attire.
Beautiful. Man, I would wear a suit. If I lived I think in Colombia, you can in certain areas, I would definitely wear suits. In Panama,
I blame that on climate change.
Why? It's hot.
Truth. Hey, listen, let me ask you something. Because then, of course, so we touched on the 3rd of November. Separation from Colombia. Then the canal. Started building the canal. Canal was finished, what, 1913, 1914?
1914. Right at the beginning of the World War I.
1914. 5th of November, Colón Day. I was in Cologne. Finally caught up with to the independence.
The 3rd of November we overlooked, but that came later, right?
The fourth of
I mean,
fourth
the 4th,
fourth
right?
Flag Day. Well, Dia de los Símbolos Patrios. So it's Flag Day and Shield Day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the
HB and I were
patriotic
racking
symbols.
our brains. We were racking our brains with this because we were like, dude, what happened on the 4th of November? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? Because we were like, man, but what happened? So then, of course, we all know the Panamanian flag, beautifully crafted by Maria Osa.
Beautiful.
Beautiful flag. Thankfully, we didn't use the
Let's
flag.
get a better view of that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I gotta turn it on.
Turn it on. Turn it
So we
on.
got and each of the colors and stars has its meaning. We'll leave that to you to Wikipedia on your own.
Yeah, seriously, because right now my mind is escaping. That information is escaping my mind. And then, sorry, carry on.
As far as Flag Day, there's let's see if I can make this work. There's the flag that was provided, like Bonavaria. He had a total plan. Like he even had the whole contract and treaty written up. He had a flag already made. Let's see if we can get a picture of that abomination.
Man, yeah, because that flag was ugly.
Yeah, there's like balls. Here we go.
Seriously.
There it is, right there.
Let's see.
Look at that thing. Okay. Hold on. There it is.
Look at that. That's terrible.
There we go. Sorry. There we go. I got so many buttons to press. I don't know.
Hey, you push your buttons, man. It looks like somebody smeared ketchup and mustard on a plate.
It looks like the U.S. flag had some jaundice. The whites are very yellow. And someone dipped their balls in gold and dipped it on just horrible.
And then just put it on the no, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. But yeah, shout out to Bruno Varela, man. That guy, he had it all mapped out.
This dude made it happen.
He had it all mapped out. And everybody wanted to give us flags, man. Spain wanted to give us a flag. Bruno Varela wanted to give us a flag. I guess they were like, man, you guys lack creativity. You're never going to have a good flag.
So here's something that always happens. This is, Wikipedia, it's mentioned as the primer modelo. Now, it looks, something's off about it. It just ain't right. Because it's upside down, man.
It's upside down, dog.
Yeah, that's the first model of it. And then we come down to the actual design, which is this one. Blue star on top, next to the flag post. Remember that, Panamanians.
That's right. And if you look at this hat I have. Blue star on top, next to the flag post. I see so many people at football matches, Panama, Panama, and they're holding the flag upside down. I mean, and it's ridiculous because I think if they want to know what side is up, all they have to do is look down at the Panama football jersey if they're wearing it, because the flag is on the jersey.
Gotta use the sense, man.
Hey, man, come on now.
So the history that I learned growing up was that the United States provided the flag of Panama, and then the other version, which sounds, I like it much better, is that Maria Osa, she actually went to 3 separate, what are they called? Places that sell fabric and I've actually gone, What?
She went to El Tijerazo in Albrook Mall.
Yeah, exactly. She went to Albrook Mall. She was afraid. She was afraid that her purchases would bring the attention of authorities. So she actually bought material in 3 different places in Casco. And if you're in Casco, I can give you a tour for the low price of $100 of the 3 different places. They still exist. I think one
That's
was
pretty smart, man. That's pretty smart.
And so she sewed this together. She actually snuck her sewing machine into the abandoned lot next door to her house, and her cousins sewed this flag together in order to be in time to declare Panama Independence on the 3rd.
That's pretty smart. Man. without a doubt. And that's the flag. So as HB said, go on Wikipedia if you guys want to find out what the blue star and the red star and the blue area and the blue square and the red square mean, because we know what it means. But we're not going to tell you.
Right.
That's
It's very patriotic, and you'll love it. Your heart.
Very patriotic. And then another one of our national symbols is the shield, man. El escudo.
We find that
El
school.
escudo. Can we get the escudo up? I remember learning about the escudo when I was in kindergarten, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
So I'm gonna try if we can get an image of the school up. This is all my kindergarten knowledge, guys. So this is what I learned when I was about 5 years old. This was like 1987.
There we go. I got it. The
1987.
research department's coming through. You got to give that
Plena
research
dictadura.
department a raise.
For sure, man. Gotta give the research department a raise. So if you see there, you see the sun and the moon. And I'm gonna say that it's because one side is the Atlantic and the other side is the Pacific. Right? Or because the canal is gonna work 24 hours a day.
The sun rises and sets on the canal. Like you got pro mundi beneficio for the benefit
Because
of the
it's
world.
for the world's benefit. You have the pico y la pala to symbolize the hard work. And we sing about the pico y la pala in our national anthem.
Then you have the horn of cornucopia, which is, that's like it's a land of, what do you call it?
Opportunity?
Oh, it's
Wealth?
like you have plenty of food. It's
Frutos.
lots of bounty.
Bounty. It's
yeah.
bountiful.
Bountiful land. We got lots
That's
of
right.
fish. We got mangoes, all kinds of
right.
stuff. We have
All kinds of
hojaldras.
mangoes.
I don't know what the flying
Carimañolas.
wheel is. Do you know what the flying wheel is? Can you go back to your pre-kinder days and let us know?
I think it's because that's where we're gonna invent the flying car here. So it's a precursor to that. No, I have no idea what that means. I'm sorry, I forget.
Right.
But again, people are welcome to look. Does Wikipedia tell us?
Yeah. So why don't you use your improv skills to let us know more about that school while I.
So I think what a lot of people don't know is that flying fish used to transit through the Panama Canal back in the day. And as the flying fish transited through the Panama Canal, Panamanian scientists were studying to see how these wings made these fish fly, because they saw that the fish to fly spun really fast.
Oh, I found it.
Ah,
In addition to the flying fish,
of course.
there's also, it says, en el cantón de su siniestra, el ferrocarril de Panamá con los postes del tendida telegráficos. So it's the wheel of the canal.
What? Tendido telegráfico. Telegraph.
So it's the
so it's like the telegraph, like the phone lines.
well, it's the
Communication.
wheel of the canal, and here's you got the wheel of the canal and the wings that symbolizes like the progress that the train brings with its telegraph wire and its ability to transport stuff.
That makes sense. Of course, the train that we have now just goes to Colón. But
Yes.
maybe in the future.
There
In the past.
were more trains. There was the old banana trains out in Chiriquí.
Word. No. I'm saying, man, we need more trains, dude.
For sure.
We need
I want
more
a train that
trains.
goes to Rio Hato. I was promised that by our previous president of Panama, and it hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't, man. It hasn't. Just like that other bridge we're waiting for, man.
Yeah.
That's never gonna happen either.
Okay,
Man.
here the central part, it says that in the central section of honor and natural colors shows the Isthmus of Panama without the canal, with the sky and the oceans at its coasts, noting that the moon starts its ascension amongst the waves of the sea to the east.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the sun is hidden by the mountains in the west. So,
That's what we said.
yeah, you're
what
spot
we
on,
said.
Joe. Excellent.
That's what we said. And Kelly says, wasn't it the new dawn? Yes, it was. We said it. New dawn.
We were
There's always a
100%
new dawn.
correct. And
Yeah,
and we got a
100%.
big bird up here. That's the bird of Panama. That's the
Aguilar Pia,
harpy eagle.
the harpy
Beautiful.
eagle, without a doubt. Hey, we're still live on Instagram. That's wild, dude. Did Instagram extend their live?
they chatted me and they're like, we can offer this to you. And I was like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, man, no doubt.
So me and Instagram are tight. They do whatever we want.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
that's good. With a very special deal that I did. It's called the TUI Bonaveria Instagram Treaty. We were able to extend our Instagram broadcast.
Excellent. I love it. Listen, let me tell you something, man. Because Fiestas Patrias, like, of course, I think you and I can both appreciate them very much, man. But you know what really, like, burns my bones, man?
What?
When I'm overseas, man, and they're always like, why don't you guys do any work in November, man? Another public holiday? Ugh. And I'm just like, man, shut up, man. You
Yeah,
guys have
stop
your
with
own
the
public
hatefulness.
holidays. Seriously, just be
Yeah.
happy that we get to take days off, man. Hashtag well-being.
We don't bother you on Box Day.
Nah, man. I hate people. People make stupid mistakes, stupid comments, and that's what I was saying about earlier, man. People can have their own opinions, man, but just because it's your opinion doesn't mean it's right. It's just
Exactly.
because it's your opinion,
Yeah.
you know.
And if you
So
can't be
anyways,
positive,
man.
just keep your mouth shut. So I've been
That's
very
right.
fortunate, Joe, that I live in pre-pandemic times.
Hmm.
I've been known to occupy space in and around Casco Viejo, and
That's right. That's right. You do occupy it, and you occupy
all
it very
these
well.
Fiestas Patrias, I'm good at occupying space. It's one of my fortes.
Yeah.
During the Fiesta Patria, they block off Casco Viejo because all the students and the patriots and the flags and the marches, they have to go in front of the Presidencia, which is a wonderful honor.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
This used to happen out in Villa España and whatnot. Now it can be done in Casco Viejo because of the renovations. So you have, it's so much fun to walk the streets of Casco while all of this patriotic activities happening. You have the students who
No
practice so hard. And I've watched some of them in a torrential downpour. First, you're standing around in a heat that only Panamanians can survive.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, while they're marching, the rain comes. So you're roasted and then you're soaking wet and it goes right into your bones. But you know what? Those Panamanian kids, they kept playing their drums. They kept playing their trumpets. They kept marching, swinging their batons. I can honestly say that I was very proud of them for their ability to show their pride in their country.
For sure. And I think it's one of the things that I've missed the most this year is just because, every year, I think one of the things that I enjoy the most throughout the year, sometimes in the evening, you'll hear in the distance, right? In the distance, you'll hear like, boom, 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 boom. And you know that it's the kids.
Yeah.
The kids are like training, they're practicing because for them, November is where it's at, man. All these bands, the independent bands, man. But this year, we haven't heard that, You didn't hear the kids. And I don't think we even had desfiles this year. There were no sort of marching around anywhere.
No, the pandemic put a big kibosh on that. I did hear some
dude.
fireworks.
A word?
They weren't on the right day, so maybe here in Cocle they have some of their own ways to celebrate. Shout out to Luke Robertson, Metro. Salute to Metro.
Metro.
He says
Mosquito and Teen Wolf signing in.
Yeah, Teen Wolf signing in. Metro Teen Wolf. Mosquitoes flying in formation. That was the guest of our show last week. You can find that here go to our page, Rapscallions on Facebook or on YouTube. Very, very interesting show about supersonic flight, man. We went supersonic. He made supersonic men out of us.
We went supersonic. Seriously, man. Seriously. And you know who's another supersonic man? Andres Clemente, undressed to impress. He sends a wave on Instagram because we're still live on Instagram.
What's up, Andres? How you doing, man?
Sends a wave. So we're sending a wave back to him. But yeah, man. I mean, I've really missed the Fiestas Patrias vibe this year, man. I've totally missed it. I missed those kids. When I was in high school, they made us march. I had to march 2 years in a row.
What?
In David, and it was hot. David is hot, man.
Oh yeah. There's only one place in Panama as hot as David, and that's Donosí, man.
Man, it was hot. You know what it is. And we had to march.
Like when you walk on the streets of David, your sneakers melt on the asphalt.
Hey, let me tell you something. We had to march in our school uniforms first we had to march, and I think it's because they were trying to build to make our group look bigger. So the first year I marched, I was pre-graduando. So they had the graduandos marching because what an honor to be graduating, and then the pre-graduandos because they want to let you know that next year we were going to be graduating. So we had to march with our little flags.
Yeah.
So quinto año, sexto año, fifth year, sixth year, 11th, 12th grade marching, and we marched for like 3 hours, man.
Whoa.
3 hours, and we had to be there at like 7 a.m. to start at 8, and then we were marching until almost 11 in our school uniforms. And those things are not like they're not Nike Dry Fit or any of that type of like
Yeah.
breathable materials, man. That's like straight up
You got
polyester.
You got some thick polyester uniforms, very patriotic uniforms.
Yeah, man. And we were like soaked. Like my pants were like a nice light blue. They ended up like a cool dark navy blue by the time that I was done marching, man. That was a sweat festival, man. But no, it was beautiful times because people were really excited. I'm always amazed at how much people will turn out to see these desfiles.
Hey,
It's
sure.
pretty cool because you could be doing anything else. You don't have to go see a desfile. Like I imagine if your child or a family member is desfilando, fine, go see them. But total strangers will just go and set themselves down.
Pictures. Were you here in Panama when at the centennial anniversary?
When was that?
2003. 100
Yes,
years
I
after
was.
the.
Yes. No, wait, was I in Panama City? I was in Panama City. Yeah, true that. Sorry, man, my math is off. Sunday, man, I'm tired.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the seco.
cheers, brother.
Straight from the bottle. Cheers. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna pour in the grass. In the grass.
I
don't remember
they
those
had
desfiles,
these.
though.
It was beautiful. It was wonderful. They had these huge desfiles in Via España, and they were
Right.
doing the battles. The battles.
Y las bandas.
Yeah, but usually the bands are right next to each other when they battle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were doing battles. You could hear them. Like this one, skip one, another one in the back, and then two more behind that. They're going back and forth and battling all the way back
Right.
and forth. It was so impressive. And the drums, I love the drums. And they got the
The
heart
amount of
beating.
time, and just practice they put in is amazing. Incredible.
Indeed.
Incredible.
So, what are some of the
Totally
other some of the other things that happened during Fiestas Patrias? We've covered the history, and we've covered the desfiles and the shield and the flag and whatnot. So we've done the serious stuff. We've done our patriotic duty as Panamanians. What are some of the other things that happen in Fiestas Patrias?
Non-stop party, man. You go to the beach. You
Whoop,
drink.
whoop, whoop.
You get a nice drink made of ron or seco,
Mhm.
and you kick back. You head to the interior. You go to Santa Clara. You
Go
visit
visit
HB.
Granny.
You hang out. You visit
Yeah.
your grandmama. You visit your grandpapa. You visit family, man. Like a
True.
lot of people have been doing over this weekend. Thankfully, with the restrictions lifted, you can do that, right?
Right. I haven't left the house in months. It's freaky.
Truth, man. Truth. Don't worry, Panama City's still the same. Hasn't changed much. So when you come back, it's gonna be the same. Being
We are
on that.
scheduled. We are scheduled for fans of the play. We are scheduled to start
Mhm.
rehearsals on the 16th,
16th.
so
That's
that we
next
can
Monday.
go live in this Monday?
Next Monday. Next Monday.
So that we can go live in the National Theater in what is it, mid-January?
12th of January, if I'm not mistaken. From the 12th to the 24th of January. From what we understand, all the necessary security procedures will be in place
Yeah,
because we got to keep everybody safe.
exactly.
So make sure you grab your tickets in Pana Tickets. I will be resuming our roles, man. I think we're going to be doing another great run of shows. It's a very talented cast and crew, super talented director, the writer, of course, you all know him.
Mhm.
It's going to be great.
And-
It's going to be great.
Yeah, it was if you had we were supposed to go on now, just a few days ago on the we started on the 5th, right?
We
Last
started
year?
on the, wasn't it
It
on
was
the
the
3rd?
I think no, it was the 5th. It was after
Right.
and we sold out every single night in the National Theater of Panama.
That's right, man.
So
That's right.
pre-sales for this Fiestas Patria had already begun, after we ended last year's show, and they sold out within 45 minutes. So
That's right.
if you did buy your tickets for this November, I believe you have priority for the shows in January. So contact
right.
Pana Tickets. You're gonna want to call them every 5 minutes, and
No.
don't hang up until you get your tickets
Yeah.
changed. They'll
Make sure
they'll
you get your
appreciate.
tickets.
You want to be like Bona Maria. You want to be persistent.
Persistent, resilient, and get your seats, man.
Yeah,
Because
get
it's
your
gonna be a
seats.
crazy show. We're all very excited. We want to come back out and just give people something very nice to see. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Something very nice. Bring that funk, bring that energy. And
That's
you know who brings the funk and brings that energy? Segway.
Segway. I call it Segway.
HB2E. That's right. That's a Segway. Segway. Sounds like Segway. HB2E and Karina Weber in this awesome. What is it? Is it like a? It's like a short film. It's a short film.
It's a short
Temporada
film.
de Mango.
Temporada
Temporada de
Mango.
Mango.
That was part of an initiative. It was an international initiative begun in Costa Rica. And the idea was that since the whole world was in shutdown, was in lockdown, this is a few months back,
Mm.
everyone was put in quarantine. And a lot of the people who were creative were like, what are we going to do now? So I was contacted, Karina and I were contacted by someone who I've been wanting to work with again for a long time. It was Carolina Borrero, Caro. She directed me in Historias del Canal many mango seasons ago. And I've been dying to work with her again. So she called. She's like, hey, we're in quarantine. Check out this webpage and let me know if you want to work with me again. She's like, we'll touch up the script. I know you and Karina are both very strong in improv skills. We're like, before she even closed her mouth, I was like, yes. So the idea was, it's called, I'm getting a brain fart. Secuelas de la Cuarentena.
Secuelas de la Cuarentena. That's right.
You can go
and
to
there's a website.
Yeah, secuelasdelacuarentena.com. You can
right.
also find Secuelas de la Cuarentena at @Secuelas de la Cuarentena on Instagram. Most of their activities there. But if you want to see the short that we did, I'll put it up on the Rapscallion site. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
So the idea behind this was that there would be international scriptwriters. There's more than 80 audiovisual professionals participating in this. So you had a handful of people writing original scripts. Then that would be handed off to a director. And then the director would cast it, and you had to stay in your home. Everything was done over the internet. And then once we filmed it, we had to film it with whatever we had at hand and whatever cameras we had at hand. Once we gathered that material, we would upload it, and then an editor. There was 4 editors that would handle 4, or I think they would handle 8. I can't do the math right now. They would handle several different projects and cut it and edit it. And then it would go to an audio engineer. An audio engineer would do the finishing touches on the audio. And then they launched at the beginning of October and did 10 of the 40 total shorts. They did 10 every weekend, or I think it was every Thursday during the month of October. Right. So we were the final week of October. We were Temporada de Mango. The script and it was all random. The script that Caro got was random, and it was about a guy having to order. He was afraid, and he was video conferencing with a friend, and he was kind of like an introvert, but couldn't go out and get food. So his friend was trying to coach him on how to order food, and he couldn't do it because he was obsessive compulsive about the food that he got, right? He never tasted it before. How would he get over this mountain? So we kind of, of course, me living out in the country, Karina and I are out in the country, it didn't really apply. So we kind of, we flipped the script. We gave our ideas to the script writer. He signed off on them. And then we started filming, and it was so neat. We had a taburete, the tall leather chairs in Panama that have the symbol burned into them. We had a taburete with a laptop on it, and that's where the director was. So it was kind of like, the Jetsons, when you have your conferencing with the Jetsons. So we'd carry the high chair around with a director on it, and put her there. And she's like, all right, move around here, move around there. Let's see if we can get different natural light. And then we'd set up different lights that we had to fill it in. And it
That's
was,
wild.
yeah, it was pretty neat to do it that way. So, without giving too much away, we had a lot of fun. And, I'm biased, but I think it was the best one. It's just
For
me. I'm just
sure.
going to throw that out there.
For sure. Well, it's the only one I've seen, and I think it's the best one
Thank
of
you,
all of
Joe.
them, without a doubt. I mean, when I saw it, I was really excited to see it because I remember you'd mentioned it to me. So I was like, man, I need to see this. I need to see this. So I saw their Instagram and I was like, oh, Secuelas de la Cuarentena. So I checked it out, man. And I thought that I didn't know you guys had input in the script itself. I thought it was a script, like I thought that was the final script. But to know that you were able to modify it in that way, because I didn't know that it was sort of like a competition sort of situation where they were like, "This is your script," because I thought it worked. I thought it was really cool. It was really interesting. Initially, when I started watching it, I don't want to give too much away, but I thought it was gonna be similar. You know that movie with Joaquin Phoenix when
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I
her.
was like, is that what's gonna happen? Like that's what I was thinking at the beginning. I was like,
Yeah. Well, I think that we try to keep we kept the main points. The script writer was actually from Mexico,
yeah,
and I mean, there was participation from all the countries in Central and South America, um,
word.
Spain, Australia. I mean, all over the world. So it was a pretty extensive endeavor. So I was,
When you were, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was about to say, and that's all I have to say about that.
And that's all I have to say about that. When you were filming, did you have Karina doing her vocal bits at the same time,
Yeah,
just so you
that
could
was
kind of?
we did it that way. One, because it had to be filmed, but two, because of the placement of the microphones. So I had an
All
external
right.
mic on me, and then she was close to the camera,
Uh huh.
and I was able to pick up her voice that way too.
Ah, that's so crazy, man. Because I saw it and I thought, man, this is amazing. Like it was really. I think one of the things that really amazed me the most was just the feeling of isolation because the character you play, Julio, he was very isolated. You could
Yeah,
tell he was isolated, and I think that when his buddy, who was supposed to go and kind of help him with all the stuff, couldn't go, it's kind of like, man, what am I
how's it
gonna
gonna
do
do?
now? Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. So then I thought it was very interesting. Then the whole thing with I don't want to give too much away, man. And if I say too much, I'll give it away. But I was just like, okay, just seeing the character develop in that way, I thought was really cool. Like there was a progression of the character
Oh, thank you.
throughout. So I thought that was really cool, man.
That's what
Thumbs up. I give
if
it two thumbs up.
two rapscallion thumbs up. Thank you, Joe. That means a lot.
Two thumbs up.
So I urge you to go check out some of the other ones, and it's funny how the different scripts manifested themselves. We talk a lot about mental health and
Hmm.
what quarantine can do to you.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see quite a different development of characters in some of the other shows where things
Oh,
develop
word.
sort of negatively.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. 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 No, because there's a lot of films from Panama, right? Not just your own.
There was two from
There's quite
Panama,
a
if
few.
I'm not mistaken.
Two from Panama. Okay.
I might be
And with the
wrong.
same director or with a
No,
different
no.
director?
Every single one had a different director, a different script writer, a different director. Yeah.
And you
So
were
there's
giving
40
these scripts
total.
randomly. Wow.
Yeah.
How long did it take the whole process for
Well,
you
I
guys?
mean, we did some post work. We had to redub some of the voiceovers, just because of edit. And when you go through editing, sometimes the story changes a little bit. In the filmmaking process, you say there's three times you change the story. When you
Mm,
write the script, um, when you shoot it, and that's essentially what the actors bring to the script, because everyone will interpret their role differently.
mm,
And sometimes they'll bring something to the script that a director will incorporate, and then you rewrite the story again when you edit it.
right.
Some things work, some things don't, and sometimes you find magic. So some of the editing required us to go back and dub over just because we found something that worked and the audio didn't fit.
Mm,
So some of the things we re-recorded audio wise.
right. Man, no, I thought it was super cool, man. Was it hard working with a director who was on top of a taburete and not there physically?
Um, I wouldn't know. It wasn't hard, and I think it was a very positive experience. I think it can be done. I'm sure the frustration was on her side, you know,
She's like,
because
I can't be there.
well, that's like, how should we film this? Usually when you scout locations, you walk through and you'd be like,
Mm.
well, where's the light come in at during the day? Where's the light come in at, in the evening versus the morning,
Yeah.
and, well, this corner has a great natural light in the morning. We'll film here,
Mm.
so everything is, you have to occupy the space. So shout out goes to Gato for her ability to be flexible enough
Mm.
to to rely on us to give her our best opinions on how to occupy the space and how to
Because
occupy
you
the different.
basically had to tell her, right? You had to tell her, like, Caro, this is when the light looks best here. This is when the light looks best there. And I
Yeah.
guess as a director, she kind of wants to be in control to a certain extent of the situation.
And she was always in control. She'd be like, I like that idea. Let's move up. Let's move forward on that one. And then we do scouting where we carry the chair around and show her. It was like when Oscar the Grouch gets carried around by the garbage man. You
Yeah,
ever seen
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
So we're carrying her taburete around, and she's on the computer, just having a look at things. And another funny thing is some of the scenes took place just outside of Wi-Fi coverage. So
Oh, good grief.
we would film it and then run back to the computer and kind of, hey, we did this, and this, and she's like, okay, well, try it again, but this way,
Right. So I was one of those when you were driving
Yeah,
the okay. All right.
yeah.
The
And
long
I've been
or
ever since I
thing,
bought that thing, I've
tractor
been
thing.
dying to put that in a comedy sketch. So my
Right.
dreams come true.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like that. I thought that was cool, man. I thought that was cool. That's insane. Has she been able to go and visit you guys since the film was
No, she's
released?
never
No?
never been here. We're not
She's
taking
never been
visitors.
there.
We're not taking
True that,
visitors.
man.
Nobody can visit us.
True
Stay away.
true that. True that. You heard that here first. Don't go to Santa Clara. That's crazy, man. That
Yeah,
is really crazy. And what
it was
was
a
it
lot of fun.
like for Karina? What was the experience like for her? Because I don't want to say
Uh,
what she is in the short, but she
well,
has a very interesting role.
yeah, I think it was very, very tough for her, and she did an amazing job because she pulled double duty as the uh, director of photography. Anyway, she was handling the video equipment while
Word.
we were filming. Yeah. So, this is one of my frustrations when I'm shooting my own personal film, my little shorts that never get published because, that you're filming something and here's the stars here. She wants to come say hello with
Oh my God, is that Margaret Thatcher?
Margaret Hatcher.
Hatcher. Wow, look at her. She's big.
Yeah, they should be laying eggs any week now.
Sweet man. This is her first appearance in the internet.
She's gonna peck my
Oh, I can
eyeballs
hear her.
out. So we got chickens during the quarantine. So Karina did a great job
Sweet.
pulling double duty of not only filming but acting at the same time, and I can definitely empathize with
Right.
her. Some of my short films that I was saying that I never published because they're so awful.
No,
When
man.
you have to set up the lighting, set up the microphone, set up the camera, press record, and then run in front of the camera and try to act, it's two different hemispheres of your brain. So sometimes it
For
works
sure.
and sometimes it doesn't. So I do
I
take
hear
my
you,
hat
man.
off to Karina for what she was able to pull off in that short.
No, that's definitely excellent, man. And just the fact that you guys can do that together is very cool, and just, have that sort of interaction. Because, man, that's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work and it was a lot of fun too. And then uh, you just had to get all those scenes together and not it, it's it really resonates how important it is to be physically present somewhere when you're working on something creative, to be able to
Yeah,
hand
yeah, yeah,
something
for
off
sure.
and try to get your ideas completed without ever talking to them or seeing them or being in the room with them is I guess that's the future. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I think it's yeah, it's what we're heading towards, I guess. At least until we have a vaccine and we can all be together in the same place, man. Hey, listen, so when are you gonna release all these shorts, man? Because you have a bunch of films. You have some shorts that you put out on Instagram a couple of months ago, and you haven't put any more. Why is that?
Uh, it's just trying to make money, dog. And
No
then,
doubt, no doubt, no
there
doubt,
is
no
some
doubt.
pre-production that goes into rapping with rapscallions. You see the beautiful logo. Karina makes
For
those,
sure, for sure.
and then I load them up into a software so that we can project them and set up the different scenes so that Joe and I can interact and look semi-intelligent. Show
For sure.
different
You know,
web
and I think
pages
that's
and
one of the
whatnot.
things. I think that's one of the things sometimes people don't understand that all of this stuff requires a lot of work beforehand. You know, it's not just kind of like turn a camera on and start talking. And then doing that on top of having a job, which thankfully we both have jobs, you know,
Yeah.
that have been able to keep us going throughout the pandemic. So sometimes it's not as simple as just being like, I'm going to film a funny video. Because if you first, you have to like think of the idea for the funny video, then you have to like, you know, move around your idea a little bit. Then you have to film it. Then you have to watch it. Then you have to edit it. Then you have to, I mean, it's just so much stuff.
Yeah. Editing. I really enjoy editing, but
So much stuff.
it's time consuming, and you can't have people calling you and checking in on you. No, you need to be isolated.
Yeah.
Here's my soundboard for rapping with rapscallions.
Look at that, man. That's wild, dude. You have all these buttons to push.
Yeah,
That's
so just so that
crazy.
we can get guests in. We've had up to
Yep.
4 guests. Usually, the first few episodes we had a lot of echoes, but we've been able to work it out by using technology.
For
So
sure,
that's the
man.
mixing board, so I can get each one of the audio signals in.
And
We're
if there,
able to
and if there's,
implement new video technology, which reduces latency and
mm-hmm,
allows us to do stuff like background replacement.
that's right. And if there's anyone who's a technological whiz, it's HP, without a
Oh,
doubt, without a doubt.
definitely.
But I'm really excited. Go
And
ahead,
then
go
we
ahead.
have the beautiful loquations of Jose Mesquita. The
Thanks,
opening
man.
song is a Rapscallions original.
It is
What you're hearing at the beginning of the show is a song that we wrote. And
indeed.
Joe's amazing rap skills are always fun to to, to put on display.
Thanks,
And
man.
also tell them let's put up your Instagram. Your John Hay rap is on Instagram, right?
My John Hay rap is on Instagram. It's also on my SoundCloud. I unfortunately have not had much more time to think up of any other raps for the past like 2 months, just because things have been wild. Um, but there's always stuff in the pipeline. There's always rapscallion stuff in the pipeline. Above all else, so there's rapscallions for life.
Like
So
you
yeah,
guys, I
man, we got a
recommend
lot
to
of.
all the people out there that enjoyed this show how we're discussing the different influences of John Hay. Go to Joe's Instagram at Joe Mosquita on Instagram, and you look for the video of John Hay. He made a rap and a video about it, and he is really cool, man. It's a nice soundtrack and nice raps about the historical. He narrates the historical importance and the interventions that John Hay did during, in a few minutes that the song plays. So I think you guys will enjoy that. You should definitely check it out. Right there,
Thanks, man. I really
right up
appreciate it.
here.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things where again, I didn't know anything about John Hay. Like I was just like John Hay, okay. And then just reading about him. Of course, I've got his biography. I started reading it, learning about him, and he was a truly interesting, influential character. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. He worked with Abraham Lincoln. I was like, whoa, he worked with Lincoln, and
Yeah.
just his role. And he was a Republican, you know. And I think now Republicans really don't have that much of a. I'm not gonna say anything about Republicans, but you know, he was a Republican.
Well,
You know, but I think during that time I was speaking with a friend of mine a couple of months ago, and he was like he was very Machiavellian, you know, and I was like, well, you know, I
what's
mean,
the thing? I think people who use that word, you have to ask them after they use that word. It's like, have you actually read The Prince by Machiavelli?
hmm,
You know, a lot of people who use that word use it colloquially or in common usage, but that when he wrote The Prince, it's a series of letters
hmm,
about someone who takes the throne who wasn't ready for it. And so this guy Machiavelli writes him a series of letters telling him what he has to do in order to not be crushed by
Yeah.
the other Rome, the Italian nation states around him. And if you read it from that point of view, then you'll see what a great work of history it is.
Yeah. And I think like we mentioned earlier, it was a time when the US was really trying to kind of cement itself, you know, in the region. And of course, if you're a Secretary of State in the US or you're president of the US at the time, what is your main priority going to be? The well-being and prolonged, you know,
Influence
status,
and success of your
influence.
country. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So you couldn't expect him. I remember somebody asked me like, was John Hay concerned about the Panamanians? And I was like, I mean, I'm sure he could have cared less. He really just wanted what he wanted for the U.S. But then again, that doesn't go to say that he wanted people to die. You know, and I think he was against a violent encounter. But then you
Mhm.
had the Americans that were living in Panama, like Shaler, and all the other ones that were embedded into Panamanian society,
Right.
and they were people that really wanted to see a prosperous Panama. So I
I
mean,
think I think you should retort to your friend who asked you if Hay was concerned about the actual people of Panama. You could ask him. Was the government of Colombia considering the people of Panama?
yeah,
Was the
yeah, yeah,
actual were the actual governors of Panama considering
yeah,
the people of Panama? And for the
yeah.
most
I
part, they
mean,
weren't.
everybody had their own interest, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you think about people like Teddy Roosevelt, John Hay, I mean, they were about the U.S. and the U.S. moving forward.
Yeah.
There you go. Much like today.
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about that. What an odd country the U.S. has become.
Mm, yeah, man. But anyways, what can you do, man? We're living in interesting times, and that's why we're always gonna have the rapscallions to make sense of these difficult times.
Indeed, indeed. To
For
anyone who's
sure,
still
man.
out there or who's watching it later, if you have any interjections, if there's any corrections you want to make on our historical portrayal of Panamanian independence, please write to us. We'll bring it up on the show. We'll very happily read it, and because knowing history is about knowing about all the different perspectives and putting it out there so people can make their own conclusions. It's not about pushing one version of it.
Not at all, man. Hey, listen, and I was having another conversation with another person the other day, and they were like, Panamanians don't know how to protest because they've never had to protest for anything in their lives. And I was just kind of like, okay, I mean, I understand,
Yeah.
but we've lived. For me, I think a moment in Panamanian history, which we're going to talk about in a later episode in the future, was during the dictatorship, man. I think if ever there was a moment where Panamanians protested and really
Oh
had their
yeah.
voices, it was there. Yeah.
Another movie that I participated in was Causa Justa, and
Mm-hmm.
at the premiere, we were all there, and I think we had three or four theaters all playing it, so that the people who participated could bring their family members.
Yeah.
And one of the kids came out and asked his dad, "Did that really happen in Panama?" You know, so I mean, just if something that happened, it's what we're up to 30 years now, right?
Mm. Wild, right? That's crazy.
30 years ago was Just Cause in December 19th, December 20th at midnight.
Yeah.
Um, if just 30 years ago, people have forgotten the history of what happened when a dictator takes over in Panama. Imagine
Yeah.
how much we've forgotten about the actual independence of Panama
Truth,
over
man.
100 years
Truth.
ago.
Truth. And that's why it's important that we, try to tell the stories as factual as they can be,
Right.
you know? And it's very interesting. Let me show you something. I know we're running out of time almost, but I got this book. I purchased this book. It reminded me of you when I got it.
Gringo cabrón. Thank you.
So this is a
I
story.
thought it was
This
going
is
to
a
be a
story.
playgirl.
So this is a story. So the back says "Soy gringo, pero no cabrón," and so it's like, so it's about this guy. So it's about this U.S. colonel, right, who was
Yeah.
married to a Panamanian woman. Um, they lived in Panama during the time of the dictadura, And so I'm just reading it now, and their experiences dealing with las fuerzas de defensa panameña, with the Panamanian Defense Forces, because their daughters, so they had three daughters, two of their daughters get detained by the PDF,
Right.
and so right now I'm just getting to the spot where the daughters get stopped, and the way the woman who wrote this book, Laura Jeanette Gow Stone, the way she writes this book, I mean, I was reading to her and I could feel the stress, what it's like to be driving down the street and all of a sudden you get stopped by these guys and you're like, what are they going to do to me?
Right.
And she mentions just how the protests were, where the people were like, were against the dictatorship, and then just having helicopters fly at you and start shooting. I was like, dude, that's wild, man. That's crazy. And I just can't, thinking like, for you to these people were protesting,
Yeah.
And their lives were like they were gonna get shot, properly shot. I was like, man, that's crazy. That is crazy.
What about that video I sent you of Panama Independence Day
man.
marches during the dictator era?
Oh my gosh.
It was full on armored troops, armored personnel carriers,
Yeah.
and then the Macho de Monte with that huge machine gun, the anti-aircraft gun.
Yeah, and he was just, riding it around.
Yeah,
Insane to think that that's how things were here at a point in our history. I don't think that's something we can forget,
You can't. And there's a lot of stories that are being forgotten. I was fortunate enough to strike up a conversation with someone who had an experience during the dictadura. And he does the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he runs one of the, like, I don't know, they're called dojos or something like that. And the main owner, the owner of all of them is a Venezuelan guy. So they're always in contact when the guy comes to see how everything's going. And the guy from Venezuela asked him, like, do you think it was worse here during the dictatorship than it is now in Venezuela with Maduro and Chavez? And so the guy told me, he's like, well, I asked him, I was like, well, what did you tell him? And he said, I don't know what it was like. I don't know what it's like in Venezuela, but I can tell you that me and my friends, one of them was a female, were walking back from the stadium, and the Fuerza de Defensa stopped us, and they started raping my friend. And when one of the guys tried to stop them, they shot him in the leg, and then they took them all in and had them detained for a week, and their family didn't know where they were at. And so the Venezuelan guy was like, oh, I think it might have been worse here in Panama than it is in Venezuela right now.
Wow.
So I mean, all these different stories and different point of views are very important, because at the end of the day, we're all humans.
For sure.
We're not gringos and Panamanians. We're neighbors on Earth.
That's right. And on that happy note,
yeah. Well, why don't you give us one of your moments of inspiration before we? A moment of inspiration about history, about knowing history, about sharing.
On the spot, man.
Always, dude. Always. This guy's amazing.
History. What's history for? For learning. We got to learn from our past, man, because our past is it may be full of bad things, but it's also full of good things. So let's take those good things, promote them. Let's take those bad things and make sure they never happen again. If there's one thing we can learn from Panamanian independence, is that it was a good example of collaboration, of working together to achieve a positive goal. And that's what we have to do as a society, particularly right now during this coronavirus pandemic, man, is when we need to be one. We need to be a community, because we're not going to get through it alone, man. I need to watch out for you. You need to watch out for me, and we all need to watch out for each other. So keep that in mind and love each other.
That was beautiful, man.
Thanks, man.
You're like, don't put me on the spot. I was like, Jesus, man, I'm going to put you on the spot every 5 minutes if you're coming up with that kind of material. That was amazing.
Off the top.
Do we have anything planned for next week? Have we talked about it yet? What should we tell the people to look forward to?
Well, something amazing, without a doubt. I don't think let me check the list. I know we have several ideas in the pipeline. I know December is going to be a bit busy month for us, because we already have a couple of ideas down for December. But I think
we've got a message. Robert Bell, How Wall Street Created a Nation.
There you go. So, that's it.
Yeah, we mentioned that a little earlier, Robert, about there's several different points of view on the history of Panama, the gold and the blackberry. And those are the polar opposites, and then somewhere in between might be what actually happened. So we're kind
That's
of
right.
jumping around on different points of view, and how Wall Street created a nation is a very interesting read. Thank you
For sure.
for bringing that to our attention.
That's definitely something on my to read list because I want to read that book without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Lots of material out there to read,
Hmm.
and a lot of people who are holding that knowledge in their mind are slowly are passing away. So we got to keep talking about it, keep interviewing
Definitely.
them. If you guys have any topics you'd like to see us to bring up during the show, please let us know. We're always having fun. We're very big on history. We're very big on mental health. Always comes up, especially during the pandemic, and we're very
Mhm.
big on collaboration. So let us know. We're very happy to bring the people aboard. Well, that brings us to the 2 hour mark. Joe, it's always a pleasure, always an honor. My good friend Joe Mosquita. We
Likewise,
met
brother.
each other in the theater, and we continue to collaborate together.
That's right.
And we've been pushing out to the Zonian audience in different groups, so it's good to see some of them tuning in. Some of the Zonians tuning. I'm Zonian. Uh, Jose Joe is Panamanian, but he grew up in the States because of the dictatorship.
That's right.
So there's a lot of unique perspectives here, and we're going to try and come up with more content that shows that in an educational and, more importantly, fun way. So thank you for that wrap up, Joe. Please tune in every Sunday starting at 3. We're on Instagram, which somehow has been showing us for over an hour. Usually it cuts
I
off at an
know.
hour, but today we've been on for 2 hours.
It's amazing.
We're also Facebook Live. If you miss it, you can always tune in later because they're always going to be there. Also on YouTube, you can check them out on us on YouTube, Scallions Rap, or just search Rap Scallions. And soon, we're going to publish all of our shows. We're going to extract the audio and put them on a podcast so you can listen to them while you're in traffic. Beautiful, beautiful.
Fun.
Sign us out, Joe.
All right, guys, take care of yourselves. We've made it past another week. We're starting another week. It's going to be a great week, guys. Be safe. We love you. Tune into the Rapscallions every Sunday at 3.
Bye, y'all.
Peace
Thanks
out,
again.
guys.
Next week.